And the bottom right in the blue. She's for License to Kill. It's Nina.
And her opponent. Spawning up at the top left for the Platinum Heroes. Recently joining them, it is eGGz. Now, this is quite an interesting opening right out of the gate. We talked about some weird setups in general. We see an Overlord 14 hatch out of eGGz. That is not necessary because Nina did not go for the hatch block. But I wonder if there's something to this in terms of like trying to throw your opponent off. But I mean, it shouldn't do anything to throw them off. It's just less efficient. It's just far less efficient. And the thing is, you can stay at 14 drones, send the drone forward and say, hey, do you have a probe that's coming here to block? If yes, then I continue with this. If not, then I build the drones and then the hatch. But eGGz elects to not do that, just says, I really want this hatch down. A little bit of a funky opener, but I think it's fine.
Yeah, this actually makes me question eGGz's preparation a little bit. We were talking about, okay, did Cham prep? How did he prep against Eric in the last series? Nina was going for this delayed scout in the Ugo series quite consistently. I mean, we saw 3 games in that series, even though it was only a 2-0 because of that very long draw. But I want to say in every single game in that series, she did go for the delayed scout. She did not go for the hatch block, as a little bit of damage there. Nina, by far one of the most obnoxious early probes that you can run into. But again, she's not going for this. So eGGz's decision to counter this, to go for the I don't want to get hatch blocked against Nina of all people, means that A, he maybe didn't watch those games, or B, he didn't trust what Nina was showing in those games, which I think is fair if we talk about kind of serious planning a little bit, but it is interesting.
Oh. Yeah, it is extremely interesting. eGGz, by the way, was about to build the hatchery. He had the wireframe down at this third base and then didn't put it down. Nina was able to get the block for a moment or two. It's not a big deal, but it's just kind of funny to see. And I wonder if eGGz accidentally put an extra input on his button or something. I'm not sure. Like maybe hit hold position instead of actually building the hatchery. That is something that can happen. Don't want to read too much into it, but nerves are always potentially a factor, and it's interesting to see if they do show themselves. Nina, was looking like she might have shaded forward, but no, it was all a fake out with that adept on the other side of the map.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We talk about mentality a little bit, and that has really been a common story today. These players, so many of them, their backs against the wall. Like, are they gonna survive? Are they gonna get to that final day? We don't know. But it's been interesting watching the evolution of Nina, right? Because Nina was this player who, Lings are gonna find this adept and cancel. They should be able to get the probe if the target fires right, but no, probe runs away. Nice micro there, Nina. Nina, for the longest time, was one of these players that was almost known for kind of tilting, for getting down in a series, having something unfortunate happen, and then just not coming back from that. And in recent years, she's done the opposite, and she's really got her mental really under control, and far be it from this player that will tilt and, find themselves in situations where they maybe lose games they shouldn't, that they start making mistakes because of how previous games went. Instead have turned into this player that has probably some of the most rock solid mental probably in the Americas in terms just from a consistent work at it. So that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to look at, as we talked about, who can handle the stress better. Well, knowing what I know about Nina, I would have to think that you'd be in her corner there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't want to cut you off, but we do have something very important. Yeah, there it is. The Nidus worm coming on down. eGGz, sorry about Eric. Eric is, nope, not in this series. eGGz is going for a Ling Queen Nidus play. And this is now the second time we've seen this today. Young Yakov tried it versus Mana. It did go unscouted, and it was very, initially could have been extremely effective, but it did go up in against charge and +1. However, Nina has gone for blink. There are oracles in the main base. There's no spore crawler here. Oh man, this is gonna find a lot of damage and will reveal this Nidus worm. Yes, it will. Nidus worm at the front is going to get scouted by Nina. This This is the best case scenario for Nina right now to start things off. She killed so many drones, and she's seen this, and now she gives up the third Nexus. I think this is a super smart decision after the drone damage she found.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely worth doing. The awkward thing, there's one thing we critique, and it really isn't much of one. The Oracles don't have energy. They cannot drop stasis traps. They cannot help in this defense at all. But in fairness to Nina, that is why eGGz has these queens there. So for now, this is an absolutely disgusting choke, Steadfast. All the lings are going to go down. Nothing is really dying here. The queens, they're running back to get on top of creep so they can transfuse, but these queens are just absolutely, they're marooned. There's nothing for them to do. They will all go down. And guess what? Nina does not even lose the third. Now, she is not able to counter the Nidus in the main, so this is where life gets a little bit more complicated.
Nah, she's got plenty to deal with this right now. She does need to get the probes in the front if she's going to use them to tank. Oracles will come home. They will actually get a little bit too close to the queens and will go down. Oh, the wraparound on the queens is going to solidly lock them in. Force fields to make sure. Lings, they're good in this situation, but there just simply isn't enough of them. Nina shut this down way too hard, too early, and eGggz, damn it, is going to be forced to tap out. My brain rewired itself for some reason, but Nina will get the game. You know, and puts herself up 1-0 against an ultra aggressive play.
And you know the funny thing is, Steadfast, my brain was doing the exact same thing even before you did. So I don't know what it is. Like I don't understand, but apparently eGGz is Eric and Eric is eGggz. But I just want to point out, and I know you did during the cast, and I got all excited about it. Nina did such a good job of A, with a probe micro, but B, realizing kind of that moment where Eric wanted to retreat, maybe try somewhere else. And that was when she ran all the probes forward, and that was when she exposed them, but she locked down all the queens. There was just no surface area. There was absolutely no way to get back into that Nidus, and well, it was already timing out. I mean, Eric was running out of steam pretty consistently there. Nina meant it's not even just running out of steam. It's just there's a burst in the boiler, and you're not running out of steam. There is no steam left. You cannot generate any more steam.
Yeah, no, losing the amount of drones that you do. Yes, lings are cheap. They are certainly units that don't require a lot of resources, but they still require some. And with Nina on a gigantic economy still, a lot of gateways. Honestly, she even could have defended that like more soundly, but it was plenty good enough. And she shut that down super hard. Very good defense from Nina. And eGGz, I mean, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board because that build, first of all, the fact that he didn't build a spore in the main base really opened him up to that damage. And then secondly, kind of attacking out from the front. I mean, it just didn't feel like it had much potential at all.
Yeah. Interesting build, certainly. And by the way, Nina made that hold without Blink even being done. So all that investment is not even there. But we're going to have to see what she invests into in game 2 because it's ready. It's Ancient Cistern. We're going to get right into it. And in the upper right, in the blue, she's up 1 game in this series, looking to make it to that final day, as Steadfast calls it, Do or Die Sunday. It's Nina.
And her opponent spawning down in the bottom left for the Platinum Heroes. Coming in with a funky build. But he needs to ratchet up that execution a little bit. It is the Platinum Heroes eGGz.
Steadfast, here's my question. eGGz's play in this game number 2. Is it going to be excellent? Is it going to be extraordinary? Is it going to be eccentric? Is it going to be exceptional?
I mean, that was definitely an egg-centric opener in game number 1. It did not go excellently though for him. He had no choice but to exit that game.
Tell me his build was cracked wide open.
Something like that, yeah. It's like I'm casting with Ravi all over again.
Yeah, well, the problem is my yokes are even worse.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I mean, going back to game number 1 there, like, the decision to drop the Nidus outside the front and not in the main base, I get it because Babylon isn't the biggest map or isn't the biggest main base, but at the same time, if that's the case, don't even do that build on Babylon. Do it on a map like Ancient Cistern that has so much bigger of a main base where you have the potential to catch your opponent off guard. Or at the very least, do it on a map where there is a flat natural. I feel like Babylon might be the worst of the 7 maps that you could do a build like that on. I actually think it is the worst.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Although, you know, Steadfast, there's the argument to be made there, right? Where it's the worst map, so Nina's not going to be expecting it, and therefore it's the best map to do it on. I don't know that holds, but there is an argument to be made.
I get what you're saying, yeah, and there's something to that. And maybe if he doesn't lose all those drones in the main base, then he's content with killing the third base and macroing. And if that does certainly change things up, but at that point, then you need to build a spore. You need to make sure that you're not taking 11 drone losses and losing a third of your economy to start things off. Just not the soundest opener from eGGz.
Yeah, we're not going to see. I don't think we're going to see the same kind of crazy level of shenanigans in Game 2 as we saw in Game 1. Specifically because eGGz pulled out a gas. You know, he got 100 gas, he got into Ling speed, and then he pulled out in its entirety, wants to maximize that mineral income. But normally a lot of these things, Queen Ling Nidus, any sort of quick lair play, you keep drones and gas after you get your speed, because then that allows you to get that quick Nidus and things like that. So or the quick layer, excuse me. So it seems like eGGz, even if he does have aggression on the mind, if he does have a different way he wants to play, it's going to be more mid-game focused. He is not really going to lean into that early game, unless I guess he wanted to pump Lings, but I really don't like Ling all-ins, Ling timings in this game. That being said, though, Steadfast, that's a weird Evo Chamber position.
It is a really weird Evo Chamber position. He's just trying to kind of keep it hidden for the +1 melee here. eGGz does snipe down a probe, loses a couple of Lings, but, you know, killing workers is always nice. Nina, by the way, her opening was extremely macro-focused. She built the third Nexus before that second gateway. That's something that Trigger was doing a lot of off of just 2 units while getting the Oracle. And of course, they are good friends, and, you know, they do talk about builds in general quite a bit. So neat to see a little bit of bleed over effect in that regard.
Yeah. Actually, the other thing we should talk about, and this is not quite as early as the build I'm thinking of, but these +1 speedling timings are kind of a hallmark again of these Latin American players. Cham used to do one where he would get his Evo chamber like at 330, so a little bit faster than this, and would kind of hit with a surprising amount of speedlings with +1 a little bit earlier than you might otherwise do so. But at this point, I mean, she's got triple Oracle, the scouting is there, and that timing I'm talking about with Cham, it was meant to counter like 1 or 2 Oracles. You would run across the map with Lings and Queens, and I don't think we're going to see that here. So instead, eGGz is, again, we talked about it, moving into the macro game a little bit. He's got his 4th base on the way, lair getting started, and now we get to see how he stands in that macro game. Is he, because honestly, it was the Oracle that got a lot of damage done that meant that his Nidus was not going to get much value. We don't really have a good idea on how well eGGz is playing in this matchup, or kind of how he wants to approach things outside of that Ling Queen idea.
Yeah, it's a really bold move to go for such an aggressive, like, do or don't build in game 1 of a series that is a must-win series. So it's cool that eGGz was willing to go for it, but like you said, it does leave us a little bit in the dark. That being said, we've got some pretty nice creep spread so far. Solid worker count, very quick +1 melee. And this is a style that, yeah, we have seen a lot of Zerg players going for. In general, the +1 melee is quite solid against Blink Stalker openings. And this is not just going to be Mass Ling. We are seeing a Hydra Den coming on in. We're going to be seeing Hydra Ling Bane out of eGGz.
That's kind of it. Technically, this is a style that is very good against what Nina is doing against the Blink Stalker, the +1, again, this hero style that took the world by storm around this time last year. But the problem was the variance of that style back then. It was putting on pressure by now. It was just Zergs had not figured out how to survive against the initial wave, and then you're pumping out Lings and they're kind of dying, and you can never get the Hydras. And then Solar and Dark, they started to show a little bit more that you can get Hydras out, you can get Lings out, you can defend properly, and it just relies on having a bunch of Lings early. But Nina is on the map now, and just because Solar or Dark can do this doesn't mean eGGz can have the macro and the multitasking to make sure that he can get here as well.
Yeah, no, certainly not necessarily. Oh, those are actually bigger stasis wards than I expected right here. +1 melee is really good against these Blink Stalkers, but you have to have that critical mass of Lings, and eGGz does have a lot of them on the other side of the map. These are not going to help him for the defense. He's actually not really doing anything with them just yet. I think he's morphing in Banes right now. Now, it would be nice if he could engage as the Lings come out of their Stasis Ward, and that's exactly what he's going to go for. Does have a lot of Queens here, but the base will fall. More Stasis Wards behind, and eGGz loses that base. Needs to find a lot of damage with this Baneling counterattack. And there are Stasis Wards in this mineral line. Nice warp in from Nina. That should put a stop to this already. Excellent defense, actually, from Nina. Great little setup to make that easier for her.
Yeah, it does seem like she's going to lose the fourth base, though. Really, she warps in a couple zealots, but the Lings already get on top, and with +1, they are pretty fantastic. More Lings, though, they're going to show up. They don't get much there, but I think if you're eGGz, you're not happy about losing all those Banes, but at least you get the fourth base. At least you keep the Protoss down. Again, those Banelings don't get all that much done. But the question now is, now that Nina has withstood this, right? She killed a lot of Lings. She killed Banes. Can she get on the other side of the map? Because it's so easy when you're talking about how Zerg plays. Once they force the Protoss back once in this build, you start to take the map control everywhere to continue to run 10, 15, 20 Banelings into your mineral lines, and you just never feel like you can get active on the map. So seems like that is what eGGz is going to try to do. And Nina, well, she's not on the map just yet, but she is waiting for Storm.
Yeah, and it's going to be a powerful timing. Now, her upgrades are actually quite a bit later than we usually see at this point. Baneling, oh, that's a huge Stasis Ward. Catches just about all of this. This is almost the perfect Stasis Ward because it's easy to clear up these 3 Banes with just the Oracles while still focusing on the right side. Storm is going to complete in moments. eGGz, not the most Hydras right here, but I do like the very quick Lurker transition against seeing all these High Templar. That is such a smart move, but Nina's going to try and go into Stargate.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of all in here, right? It's 63 workers. He's not even on full 3-base saturation. So Nina, her economy's in a great spot. Yes, 4th base denied, but when you're up, what is that, 11 workers on the Protoss, you're kind of okay. Now, we do have those Banelings. Those +2 Banelings are going to try to run in. This time, Nina, she's on top of it, though, tries to warp into Stalkers, and the second pylon doesn't go down. So, well, Banelings, stasis, saving Nina at the last second.
That is such a clutch stasis right there. Those probes feeling the pressure. I do like the Stasis Wards once again with the army. Very nice stuff from Nina, just keeping these units covered. She does have to be a little bit careful. Here comes a big Ling counterattack, and it's going to be a recall from Nina. That's actually, does she have enough? Oh, no. Actually, that was not enough Stalkers. If she had recalled like 5 more Stalkers, that would have been brilliant. Instead, I think this is going to be a dead Nexus as well as a good number of Stalkers on that recall. eGGz does find some good value on the counterattack, but attack in the middle of the map. Looks like a Zoning Storm will push this away. I still think I like... Oh, actually, that's tough to say because eGGz is on 4 bases. He doesn't have a great economy. Nina's gotten knocked back down to 3, but still has a lot of workers. I think this is a really even game, actually, right now. I think either player could take this.
So I think Nina explicitly, very, very specifically, did not recall High Templar because she was worried about losing them on the recall based on bad positioning. But how do you feel about that idea, right? On the one hand, yes, you don't have any splash damage. That was a problem. We saw that as a problem. Nina did not recall enough back home. But on the flip side, she recalls a couple High Templar, 2 Storms, clear that up. You're fine. We got to talk about this army right now, as interesting as that idea might be, because there are so many Lurkers on the map right now. We have 9 Lurkers here. Zealots, High Templar, Nina move commands. That's not what you want.
No, and she does not have anything that deals with Lurkers at the moment. It is Templar Blink Stalker, which is just a brutal composition against this. And now Lings and Banes get into the natural and the main. This is going to cripple the economy of Nina. At the main fight, eGGz is going to move in on this 4th base. He has gutted the worker count of his opponent. Nina, I mean, she's struggling to deal with this, and I think that this just might be a little bit too much for her to handle.
Yeah, she's kind of dead. I hate to say it, but you lose 54 probes at any given time. Yes, Nina is transitioning. She's moving into carriers, but she only has, she only has the 1 Stargate, so we're not going to have 3 carriers pop out and deal with a scant amount of Hydras here and all the Lurkers get dealt with. She drops some good Storms on the Lurkers, and then that's nice, but Lurkers don't die to a single Storm. They are very tanky units, and at this point, I mean, Nina's dropping Storms, trying to zone them out, and eGGz is just going to jump right on top of things here. Full surround, and then Storm. You storm your own units, Nina. That's what she's going to have to do, but everything just dies. So eGGz, he hit the timing. Nina got stuck in the mid game, and, well, Nina just did not transition as she needed to, did not identify that she needed to transition when she did, at least not quick enough. So now eGGz is looking like he's going to drag us into game 3, regardless of whether Nina wants to go there or not.
Yeah, we're looking at a 100 supply lead right now. eGGz, I mean, there's a lot of static defense. He's still got to play this somewhat carefully, but he has broken the back of Nina, and there we go. She is going to tap out, and eGGz will even the series at 1 apiece. Well done.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about that game, and I think through the first 10 minutes, maybe, it's like, wow, Nina's in such a good spot. These stasis traps are fantastic. Her micros, she's putting pressure on when she needs to. She's really not taking that god stasis that caught the last couple of banelings before they hit the probes. I mean, those were really good moves, but she didn't catch on to the lurkers, and I think she could have sustained the lurker pressure if she had not let Ling Bane into her natural and into her main base, because it went from, okay, maybe I lose this outlying base as I complete my transition. I'm going to, flow around the map. I'm going to kind of pull a DRG against the Terran. I'm just going to, wherever you are, I'm not going to be, and I'm going to flow around into, well, I can't do that because I literally have 25 probes and I can't afford more Nexi. Like, this is just not going to work. And at that point, Steadfast, one carrier does not save you.
No, and make no mistake, that was a pretty dedicated setup from eGGz. He didn't have a hive. He did not have a huge worker count. He didn't have a 5th base. And I mean, lurkers without hive are not the most effective tools. However, when your opponent's composition is Blinkstalker Storm, Blinkstalker High Templar, I mean, no range, no upgrade lurkers, they are going to do more than fine. And of course, like you said, the Ling Bane getting into the natural, getting into the main, crippled the economy of Nina. She'd already taken a bit of a hit with the loss of that 3rd base. Yeah, that was just a complete lack of knowledge of the lurker transition. And eGGz seems like he has done his homework, because I think Nina probably is liking this Blinkstalker Storm composition quite a bit. And it does extremely well against Hydra Ling Bane, but the lurkers are a completely different story. You need either Archons, Immortals, Charge Lots. You need more than what Nina had.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just homework for this season, though. This is what gave Scarlet fits, actually, when Nina played Scarlet in DreamHack Masters Winter last season. But now, this is, by the way, this is kind of how Game 1, Part 1 of Nina and Uko went, where Uko hit her with a quick lurker transition. She was able to turtle that out that time, but not in this game. But Game 2, and in Game 1, Part 2, she was able to play around it, get her transition ready properly, just respond to her opponent. So now, can Nina do it again? Or does Eric have another trick up his sleeves? Game 3, we're ready for it. And on the bottom right, in the red, the lurkers, they're a pretty good unit. It's eGGz.
And his opponent spawning up at the top left. She is for License to Kill, Nina. Yeah, that was a situation where I'm sure Nina would have wanted that game back. Quite definitely. Because she was in a pretty decent position after she picked off the 4th base of eGGz. She found some momentum with her Brilliant Stalkers. Her Forge was very late. Not building that Forge at a quick timing, especially against a player who's going for such fast +1 melee. I mean, there's not a big breaking point for Stalker versus Lings, but for, the Zealots versus the Lings, or Stalkers versus Hydras, or Stalkers versus Banelings, just having any bit of extra damage, usually it's the Stalkers versus Hydras in this case, or even Stalkers versus Roaches is what we're usually thinking of, but there's a few tipping points that become open. And then even the Archons, for example, with +2 versus having just +1, makes dealing with lurkers a lot easier. There's just a lot of things that made that more complicated for Nina, and then the fact that she just didn't know it was coming is really what caused her fits.
Yeah, StarCraft is certainly a game of incomplete information, but there are tiers of information. Not knowing that your opponent has, taken a 16 gas for, actually that's a really bad example. You're playing a TVT, it's 6 minutes in, and you haven't scouted your opponent has a third base that they have just about completed in their main base. Yeah, you know, that's important scouting information, but you can kind of assume because they haven't really shown anything. That's not on the same tier as not realizing your opponent has transitioned to lurkers and has just about 10 lurkers burrowed up outside of your third. So
yeah,
yeah, there are tiers.
Yes, it's the old adage we used to talk about, like, if the first time you see 8 mutas, 10 mutas in ZVP is when they show up in a mineral line, you're dead. Kind of the same concept with lurkers. If the first time you see that your opponent has 10, 12 lurkers is when they're sieging your third or fourth base, chances are you're probably dead. Now, there are certain compositions that will just deal with it just fine. Like if you're going Charge Lot of Mortal Archon, you do have the tools ready to go, but Nina just didn't have those tools that she needed.
Yeah, and certainly when you talk about, I mean, Charge Lot of Mortal Archon has been a traditional method of dealing with this for the long time. Granted, those were balance changes ago. But when we're looking at like 9, 10 lurkers, that's on the edge of being able to deal with it, right? 6, 7, okay, absolutely. You surround that, you charge that in, it does surprisingly well if there are no banelings. When we get to this point, though, especially with the upgrades, and I want to say he had +1 on those lurkers, it does become a little bit more problematic. It's a nice micro there, Nina. Gets all the lings, loses the probe, but with the, what was that? The shield battery cancel, the pylon cancel, keeps the adept from really taking any damage. But yeah, it's, even if that was Charged Lot of Mortal Archon, it was it's certainly something that Nina could have fought, but it was kind of on the edge of being manageable.
eGGz almost just killed his own drone in the natural expansion, but oh my god, he did actually kill it.
Egg.
Well, that is
the drone
not
had a family.
Ideal. I mean, it means the Oracle can't get the kill there, but you definitely do not want to be doing that. Nina does take a lot of damage on this first Oracle. She will actually try and find something with it. eGGz, if he had been a little bit more on top of it with his second queen, maybe could have got the punish, but 3 drones do end up going down. And yeah, that's a funny battle report. Nina winning 2-1 in the number of drones killed in this game.
Actually, I pulled it up because I wasn't sure, but you know, the pop-up said, yes, you know, it's 3 workers killed. And I actually wasn't sure whether the eGGz killing his own worker would be included in the 3 workers, you know? So I'm like, okay, did Nina get 3? Is that 4 dead workers? Anyway, interesting scenarios.
Speaking of interesting scenarios, eGGz is getting a very quick overlord speed, and he has gotten a lot of roaches here. This feels to me like we are going to see a German taxi coming on in. We've got the layer, we've got a bunch of roaches, we've got 6 queens, and I think we are going to be seeing a very aggressive move coming across the map. We're going to see these queens getting ferried forward, and eGGz. Well, hang on. Actually, no, this is going to be the German Autobahn. Actually, we're not seeing the Dropper Lord. It is just going to be Creep getting dived or getting dropped on across the map. Kind of like Flight of the Valkyries here with these lumbering overlords.
Man, if only I had a sound cue for that. But regardless, yeah, this is... Dragon Scales is so short from third base to third that you really don't need to put them in it. You really don't need to spend the gas on the Dropper Lords. The thing is, though, Lings engage before the queens are ready, so the Oracles were able to find some level of damage, but it triggered shield battery overcharge. Nina,
yes.
This is a bit rough.
Yeah, the shield battery overcharge already being used up is tough. Blink is nearly complete, but it's not done just yet. Oracles, a lot of them have already used up all their energy. They really can't contribute meaningfully to this fight. And the Stalkers do get surrounded on the right side. Blink is not in time to save them. Nina is in a ton of trouble right now. eGGz, I think the best thing he can do right now is just kill off all the probes at this third base and just confirm the kill on this third. This is exactly what he wanted to prevent, is any of the probes being recalled out. Still, this is such a good position for eGGz. He can just drone out of this. He can transition, and he has already found a huge amount of damage.
I'm so confused as to what Nina was doing there. She pulled all her Stalkers onto the right side. Okay, fine, you're running back towards the natural. But she was running away from the shield battery. She was running away from her ability to... And yes, shield battery overcharge is done, but Blink was about 10 seconds out, right? So you can... There was a very easy world where Nina goes... not easy, obviously. Nothing's easy in StarCraft, but there was a very realistic world where Nina goes, pulls back to the shield battery behind her mineral line there, takes the fight, eats all the shield battery energy, trades out a little bit better, blinks into the main, because Blink is just about done. It is hard in that chaos to realize, okay, to know exactly what your blink timing is, things of that nature, but pulling the Stalkers away and then engaging into the fight, rather than A, sticking on the shield battery, or B, kind of just retreating all the way, was a bit of an awkward decision.
Yeah, definitely makes things tough, but it's a tough situation that she found herself in to make the right decision. I do want to point out, by the way, that eGGz did get supply blocked pretty brutally at 114 when he wanted to be building a ton of drones. So at this point, he's only on 65 drones anyways. So it's actually not a huge economic lead in terms of the worker count because Nina was able to save all those probes. But of course, he is mining much more efficiently, and Nina certainly needs to get a lot done. Does she not have a robo? No, she doesn't. So these creep tumors, this is going to take a lot of revelations to clear this up. And during this, eGGz sees exactly where his opponent's army is. He might have liked to go for the fight. Ooh, that's a nice storm, though.
I kind of like Nina's army. Granted, as eGGz continues to become unsupply blocked and build more army, it becomes a little bit scarier. But Nina just got so many overlords. We talked about eGGz being unsupply blocked. Well, it's going to take a moment. He's got to build a lot of overlords here. And that does complicate matters for eGGz just a little bit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Nina has no third to take. We got an overlord poop and creep on the right side. There's so many creep tumors here. And she didn't get the active ones
eGGz
on the north side. Nina's just got to run across. She's taking her like fifth. And it's actually not going to get taken. It gets canceled immediately. Nina just has to run across the map. I don't see a world where she wins a macro game here. She can't get her third.
No, she cannot, but at the same time, this is going to be a difficult time for Nina to find any purchase. eGGz did lose more and more overlords, which actually did supply block him again, but now he does get fully unsupply blocked. He will be able to build some lurkers, and lurkers, once again, they will counter this army very effectively. There aren't large numbers of them. Good storm to start things off. It's a lot of these hydras, but attacking up a ramp is... it is a losing prospect. I don't know how you're going to do it here.
I guess the one saving grace is that the lurkers aren't burrowed. There they are, so they're burrowed now, but that gave Nina a bit of a timing. These storms are really nice at fast, but so much of the damage is getting transfused out. And yeah, you know, their force fields, there are Ravagers there. They drop the biles, they knock these down. So Nina had a timing, maybe, but she spent too much time getting across the map. She spent too much time, honestly, she had to kill. Killing the fourth base was not nearly going to be enough. She had to get so much more. And, I mean... she doesn't have the ability to reinforce. You know, she does not have there is no robo, there is no warp prism. This idea from eGGz, and most importantly, how proactive he's been by maintaining this creep thread, even as Nina's been trying to clear it off, is so massive. She's going to try to take her high ground base, but I feel like at this point, the lurker siege on that is it's going to be nigh insurmountable.
Yeah, this is going to be extremely difficult for her. Finally, some of this creep getting cleared up on the original pocket third base location, but... I mean, it's not all going to go down, first of all, and didn't even get all of the creep tumors. Good job from eGGz to actually defend this creep. And even dropping a tumor during all this is very funky. Meanwhile, +2 missile is done. Range is done for the lurkers. They're about to have adaptive talons, which is going to be... That is not something that Nina can effectively deal with right now. She just does not have a way. And now these adaptive talons lurkers, they'll force to cancel again. Nina getting knocked back down to 2 bases once more, and now she's kind of surrounded here. This army is taking huge hits. Nina, I don't think she can do it here. I just don't see a way.
Yeah, it's a sad Americas when Nina's not playing on the final day, but eGGz has been playing so incredibly well these last 2 games. And in all fairness, he made one mistake in game 1. He did not get a spore in his main base. Oracle's got 11 workers. There you go. But eGGz ever since has been playing so incredibly well. Mixtures of aggression, defense, making sure he's doing everything he needs to. And I mean, the storms are good, but there is no way. There's absolutely no way that Nina engages up the ramp here.
No, there's just too many lurkers. You can beat lurkers with blink stalkers if there's like 2 lurkers and they're not defended, and you know they try to burrow. You're the one being proactive, so they're responding to you. But when the lurkers are set up, like for example this, as they try and move up the ramp, is able to find one of these. Nina gets a second one even. Good job. But this is too many lurkers to attack into. She's got no choice, so she drops some huge storms on the hydras. But there's just nothing she can do. She cannot afford to continue to reinforce this army. She does actually have a lot of money in the bank, but this is still a one-punch, one-go army, and I just don't really see much of an option for her. She's still trying to warp in just High Templar. I mean, storms are good, but they're not that good.
You got 14 storms set fast. You give her enough time, she will kill this army, I guess. So the question now is, how close is she in this one punch journey? Is she doing 10 kilometers a day? Is she doing her push-ups? Apparently not, because High Templar, they're not bulk yet. They're not Archons. They're not beefy boys. And when we had the Queens on top of this, yeah, you know, they can't transfuse. Not just yet. The creep is not redeveloped. But I mean, Nina has just not been able to deal with this plague of creep. It's back on her doorstep again.
It is. We've got 14 High Templar on the field. That's a really nice storm. Nina, like, these are amazing storms that she's gotten in the last little bit, but it's just a matter of the unit composition for eGGz. It's a counter to what Nina's got. These lurkers with +2, they are designed to beat this army. There should be no amount of High Templar Stalker that can beat this number of lurkers. And that's really the problem here. Nice recall with the storms, but will instantly lose the High Templar. Nina cannot replenish anywhere near as effectively as eGGz. The resource graph has been a huge advantage for the Zerg for the last, at this point, like 7-8 minutes. The storms are going to try and land on these lurkers, but eGGz, I mean, he's finally cracking through.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, Nina's been fighting really hard, but at a certain point, you need to be able to reinforce, and more stuff, you know, they say it does beat less stuff, and it certainly is true in this case, especially when that more stuff is designed to beat your less stuff. So eGGz up 100 supply at this point. This has got to feel bad for Nina, considering how good of a position she was in game 2, but eGGz 2 times in a row, he finds the opportunity. He figures out just what he needs to do to make sure that his army is going to beat what Nina has. And Nina dropping all of the storms at once. Unfortunately, though, they do not stack. And eGGz, his chances, they're not scrambled, not just